All right, today we are cracking the code on a huge topic, the US Treasury's new game plan for digital assets. As the whole crypto world just explodes, so do the dark corners where crime and major national security threats can take root. So the Treasury is finally stepping in to fight back, and we're going to break down exactly what they're planning to do.
And that really brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Are these digital assets the next giant leap in finance? Or have they accidentally created a paradise for criminals and rogue states? Well, the truth is, it's not a simple yes or no. And that tension, that's exactly what the US government is being forced to deal with right now.
So let's start by looking at crypto's dark side. Now, the Treasury is really quick to say that most crypto activity is totally above board, totally legitimate. But, like any powerful new tech, it creates new opportunities for people with bad intentions. And as we're about to see, their methods are getting seriously sophisticated.
Okay, so one of the key tools they're using is something called an unhosted wallet. The easiest way to think about it is like digital cash. It's a wallet that you control 100%. There's no bank, no exchange, no one in the middle. Now that gives you total freedom, but it also creates a huge blind spot, letting transactions happen way outside the view of the traditional financial system.
And then you've got these things called mixers, or tumblers. Honestly, the digital laundromat analogy on the slide, it's perfect. Criminals can take their dirty crypto, throw it into the mixer with a bunch of other funds, and what comes out the other side is clean crypto that's almost impossible to trace back to where it came from. It's digital money laundering, pure and simple.
So, with tools like unhosted wallets and mixers in their pocket, how exactly are criminals taking advantage of all this? Let's pull back the curtain a little bit on this digital underworld and see the specific threats that the Treasury is now laser-focused on.
This table basically lays out the entire criminal playbook. For money laundering, you see mixers, plus this technique called chain hopping. That's where they just rapidly swap funds between different cryptocurrencies, like from Bitcoin to Monero and back again, just to break the trail. For ransomware payments, they'll often use foreign crypto exchanges, what the government calls VASPs, that have really weak security. And you can see right there, unhosted wallets and even social media are being used to get around sanctions and to fund terrorism.
And this goes way beyond just individual crooks. The stakes here are so much higher. As this quote from the Treasury makes really clear, this whole thing has ballooned into a national security problem. We're talking about entire countries leveraging these exact same tools to get around international sanctions and fund their regimes.
And if you want to understand just the sheer scale of this problem, just look at this number, $620 million. And that's not the total amount of crypto crime over a year. No, that's from one single heist.
Yeah, that massive number came from the biggest crypto heist in history. And it was carried out by North Korea's own state-sponsored hacking team, the Lazarus Group. They stole it from an online gaming network and then, almost immediately, started funneling it through the very same mixer services we were just talking about, trying to wash the money. This is state-sponsored crime on a scale we've just never seen before. So the threat is clear. It's serious and it's growing. The big question is, how is the US actually planning to fight back? Let's dive into the government's official action plan.
The Treasury's full plan is pretty detailed, but it really boils down to this clear three-pillar strategy. Pillar 1, just strengthen the rules and the supervision of the entire crypto space. Pillar 2, actively hunt down the bad actors who are exploiting it. And Pillar 3, work together with international partners and the private sector to try and stay one step ahead.
So digging into that first pillar, it is all about beefing up the rule book. This means keeping a close eye on new risks popping up in places like DeFi, that's decentralized finance, and NFTs. It also means updating old laws like the Bank Secrecy Act for the digital age and just making sure all the different regulators are on the same page. Really, the main goal here is to close all the loopholes that criminals are currently slipping through.
Pillar 2 is the fun part. This is the hunt. It means the Department of Justice is going to be actively investigating and prosecuting these crimes. It also means the Treasury is going to use its really powerful sanctions tools to just cut these bad actors off from the financial system entirely. And what's really interesting is they're not just going after people, they are targeting the actual infrastructure that makes this crime possible, like when they sanctioned those mixer services, Blender.io and Tornado Cash.
And finally, Pillar 3 is all about recognizing that this is a global problem that doesn't care about borders. The US just can't solve it alone. So this means working with international groups like the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF, to set clear, consistent anti-money laundering standards for everyone.
It also means teaming up with the private sector, the exchanges, the blockchain analytics companies that are on the front lines, to build smarter tools. It's really got to be a team effort.
And all of this brings us to the fundamental challenge of this entire plan. It is an incredibly delicate balancing act. How do you regulate a powerful new technology without just crushing the very innovation that makes it so exciting in the first place? That is the central question for the future of finance and security.
So on one side of the scale, you've got innovation. The US absolutely wants to support the companies that are building the next generation of finance. But on the other side, you have this non-negotiable need to protect national security, to fight money laundering, and to make sure sanctions actually work. And as you can probably guess, those two goals can sometimes be in direct conflict. And so, the real goal of the Treasury's entire plan is to thread that needle. Look, the idea isn't to ban crypto. Not at all. It's to surgically cut off the pathways for criminals, which would, in theory, create a much safer environment where responsible innovation can actually thrive. It's a really targeted, strategic approach. Which leaves us with this one critical question hanging in the air. Can the government actually regulate these very real risks without accidentally smothering the innovation that could define the future of finance? The Treasury has its blueprint, but whether they can successfully pull off this balancing act, well, that's a story that's still being written.